Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Man Cave, and man, the cup runs over today. We got so much to cover, so many videos, so many pictures, so many everythings. But we'll start off with the shirt. It says Genius in Disguise. That's what it says in the bottom, in disguise. And I figure if the shirt fits, wear it. Anyway, the band will be here on Thursday. Unfortunately, our banjo player, Leon, has canceled. He's not going to be here, but the rest of the guys should be here, as far as I know. And we will have Tony Smith, that wonderful fiddle player, coming Thursday and filling in. And Cash and Cambry will also be here Thursday. They will play the halftime show. So while we go take a break and eat some goodies, Cash and Cambry will entertain you. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good show on Thursday, so be sure to tune in for that if you can. That'll be Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. I'm going to start off with the show and tell today with this. This is a viewer gift. It says Bow Shield T9. And this is from Preston Johnson. He's a longtime viewer of the channel. And Preston sent this to me. I was pleasantly surprised when I opened up the mailbox on Friday and found this in there. I was on my way out to that non-existent jam on Friday. I told you there was a jam at the Houston house on Friday evening, and it turned out not to be true. They canceled it because the Starvey Creek Bluegrass Festival was just an hour down the road, and everybody was at the festival, so except me, of course. And anyway, Tony, also the fiddle player, showed up there, and so did Cash. So that's how I invited them to come this Thursday evening. for the play along. So it was unfortunate but fortunate. But anyway, there it is. I just took the plastic off it while I was talking there, and this is a rust and corrosion protection. Preston's note says, I've used this on firearms for penetrating rust. Sometimes works when you might give it a try. Better than WD-40, your friend Preston Johnson. So thank you, Preston, very, very much. It will definitely go to good use. I really do appreciate that. I feel so much less like a criminal now. Yeah, it says here, we reviewed your vlog 785. We have rails and night vision video. And they again, and it confirmed it doesn't violate our community guidelines. We put your content back on YouTube. Thanks for your patience during our review. We're committed to keeping YouTube a safe place for everyone, and sometimes we make mistakes. I'll be darned. I feel so much less like a criminal. It's so much better. The whole weight of the world is off my shoulders. It's just a mess, isn't it? In this world screwed up, it is pitiful. You can't even show an air rifle. Well, they didn't say anything about the fact that they stopped my vlog the next day. I mean, it's one thing to take a video down, but to stop you from making a vlog, it's, I don't know, crazy. Just absolutely crazy. Let's see, what's the next thing? Now that I'm no longer have a criminal record, Michael 2X has a email sent to me. Michael 2X is also known as Robert Russ. Anyway, he says, I made myself a deer antler saddle for my Gibson Hummingbird. It did have some porosity as shown. I got rid of most of it, but a good bit did remain. It took a couple of tries. He said the Hummingbird rings like a bell now. I also beveled my pins as you do. Thank you seems inadequate for all you have shared, but God bless you for it, and a huge thank you from this 64-year-old man. I hope God blesses you with many more happy, healthy years to share with your family and fans. I know my saddle is far from perfect, but I consider it a huge accomplishment for this very old apprentice. The Rosenmeister is the best. Well, thank you very, very, very much there, Michael 2X, for sending me the note. And I finally got the photos there. If you look on the right side of the screen, you can see at the top there, he's got the saddle fit in there. And there's a comparison, apparently, to the other saddle that was in there. And I say, good job, Michael, or in your case, Robert Russ. But I'll always call you Michael 2X because that's the only thing I know you from. And let's see, moving on to the next email. Dan Frazier sent me an email, and it says here, I ran across your YouTube videos quite by accident recently, and after complaining and swearing at my meager Mandos for years, I was finally given the knowledge to lower my action enough to make them comfortable without dang near slicing my fingers open on 2 high actions. And one was a custom built and set up by the luthier. There is joy in playing now instead of pain, and I thank you sincerely, Dan Frazier. Septuagenarian, I can't say that word. Old dude. Well, thank you, Dan, for the note. And in regarding the your comment there, that I've said this many, many, many times before, and some of you will have heard me saying this, but there's a huge difference between building instruments and setting them up. I don't want to name any names, and I'm not going to name any names, but I've had lots of luthiers that have built their instruments, have then brought them to me to set them up. And I could name other instances where other people have received or purchased custom instruments for other luthiers, and then I've ended up setting those up. Setup is completely different skill set than building. I'm not saying one's more difficult than the other. I'm just saying they're completely different skill sets. And fortunately, I feel like I have both of those skill sets. It took me a long time, I think, to get to where I really felt like I was on top of the setup compared, to feeling like I was on top of building. I think I was on top of the building before I was on top of the setup, to be perfectly honest. But setup is tough. I've pretty much shown all the tricks and tips in my videos, so if you watch all that and absorb all that, I think you should be able to do it. But it is different, and lots of people build them, and then they're hard to play. So there you go. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting comment that he made. Let's see, that was, I forget which one I just showed you. That was Dan Frazier, I think. I have another email here from Joe Everett. Joe Everett sent me a picture of some barbed wire. I showed you guys a piece of just a little short piece of barbed wire that I found. It was just really short, but it was exactly like this, except different. Exactly the same, except totally different. Now his has many more saw teeth on his. Mine had the same look, but mine had many fewer teeth. In other words, like there'd be a tooth and then maybe a 2-inch spacing before there was another tooth on mine. But it's different than the modern barbed wire now, where modern barbed wire is like two wires that are just twisted like that, and then they have barbs going through it, like that. So they're twisted with a barb going through that and tied around it even. And some of them have 4 barbs and some of them have 2 barbs on the modern wire. But this wire, as you saw there, is it's a piece of flat steel that's been twisted, and in that flat steel there's like saw teeth on both sides of that wire. So this is really old antique type barbed wire. Now, don't get me wrong, it's probably still in existence in some places. I mean, like out west where it's dry and stuff, that's I wouldn't doubt if you wouldn't go out there and see it on the fence right now. But in my lifetime, I never saw that kind of barbed wire in use ever, not one single time ever. And I've been around farms and horses since I was a baby. So, I mean, I've never seen that old twisted wire with the saw teeth on it. I never saw that in use. I knew about it. I've seen displays of it, but I never saw it actually being used. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's still not out in the West, because it's dry and there's just little to deteriorate it out there by comparison. But that piece that I found, I dug it up out of the ground with the metal detector. So obviously they did use that here too. All right, moving on. Talking about metal detector, here's a little short video clip for that.
Well, my friends, over the weekend I did a little bit of metal detecting. I thought I'd show you what I found. This was a aluminum pot with a steel handle, and that was down about 10 inches deep in the ground, all mangled. Okay, found a cast iron cooking pot, or a piece of a cast iron cooking pot. I don't know exactly what this is, but I've seen these things pretty much my whole life. I just can't place where I see it at. It's got something to do with the undercarriage of a vehicle, I think. Wagons or cars or something. Somebody may know in the comments. If you do, speak up. Here's a piece of a porcelain jug. These are incidental finds. The metal detector, of course, can't find these. You just find them while you're digging the other holes. No piece of glass. It's unusual to find a whole shotgun shell, but I did. And a whole 22 bullet. You don't generally find them that haven't been shot. Here's a probably pistol ball. Could be off of a squirrel rifle, but it's probably a pistol ball. This is one of the more unique things I found. It's a piece of probably copper or brass, and you could see that this snapped onto something. The snap would go through the larger part of the hole and then slide up into the thin part. I'm just wondering if this couldn't be Civil War, and the reason I say that is because I found it in an area where I found quite a bit of Civil War stuff, and very old stuff. I just wonder. I don't know what that is. Maybe somebody will know in the comments or something and know it's more common than that. My guess is it's pretty old. Square nail. I found a penny up on top of the ridge. I went up on top of the ridge looking for artifacts because I could tell on the old map that the ridge line used to be the old road coming in here. I found lots of shotgun shells and that penny. Most of this other stuff was found down here on the farm. I found this by the old house place with the rock wall, the one on the corner of the woods. That's a clock gear, I'm sure. Again, all these shotgun shells are just help me date things. Found most of those I found up on top of the hill. Most of those I found up on the ridge. This I found down here in the general area of the farm, just by the well house that's down by the pond. Anyway, I know what this is, I think. It took me a long time to figure it out, but this bolted around the steering wheel, and this went through here, and you could spin the steering wheel with this. That's what this was for. It's pretty darn old, I'll bet you on that. I mean, it's probably from the 30s or 40s, is my guess. Might be older than that even, but I would say 30s, 40s is probably what I'm guessing. Anyway, there you go. There's one of these shotgun shells is not like the others. Let me demonstrate what I mean. To demonstrate what I mean, I think I need this. What is this? This is a magnet. Watch this. Shotgun shells are not magnetic. Oh, that one is. That's weird. That one's magnetic. I knew this one is. I have never seen magnetic shotgun shells. Well, I got two of them. I don't think the rest of these are magnetic, I've never seen them before, but here I ended up with 2 of them. That is bizarre. I didn't know that one was magnetic too, unless there's something, steel in there or something that's just tricking me. Apparently it is. So these 2 here are magnetic. Therefore, they are made out of steel rather than brass or, copper alloys. These, all of these shells have, as far as I know, they've always been made out of brass. I didn't realize they had made them out of steel. I wonder if they did that during some sort of a wartime or something like that. I don't know. I can't imagine. It seems an odd thing to make them out of. It'd have to be harder to form and everything. Well, anyway, those are the random finds. I just thought I'd show it to you.
I had to scroll. I got so much on the screen here, I had to scroll way back up to find the camera. Yeah, anyway, for as much as that looked like there was there, that is like 1/10 of the stuff I dug up. I mean, there's so much in the ground. You just can't imagine how much there is in the ground. It's really annoying in a lot of ways, like it's just beep, 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 beep. Every place you move the darn thing, it's just beeping like crazy. And of course, you're trying to get through all the crud to try to find the stuff that's the better stuff. And it ain't easy to do, trust me. But anytime you're around where they lived, it's just full. I mean, the ground is just completely full. It's hard to explain how much there is. You really can't appreciate it until you try it one time. Anyway, moving on. Here's another little thing I did this morning. Well, here's another thing I did this morning. See that black tarp? That is spread over the roof of this old building. Yeah, it's pretty bad, the roof is. I just got up there this morning and saw there was a big old hole in the roof. And I say big hole, it's about the size of your thumb, about that big around. Anyway, bummer. So that whole roof's probably going to have to get tore off, not just the shingles, unfortunately. Before Sue left to go to Ohio for the weekend, she pressure washed this and knocked all the paint off of it. So we'll be able to, restore the building and make it real nice. I restored the inside of it a long time ago, and it's in still pretty good shape. But I'll probably update that a little bit too while we're doing this. This, as usual, turns out to be a much bigger project. Just tearing the shingles off would be a big project, but having to put a whole new roof on the top of it, whole new lumber, everything, looks like. What a bummer. Did you expect anything less? Did you ever hear it's not easy being me? You're going to start to believe it someday. You will believe it. Yeah, it's a mess. It's going to be just a big job. I don't even know where to start. If I should just rip it off and just put new trusses, everything, because I have a feeling they're going to be rotted too. It should have been done a long time ago. I didn't realize it had gotten that bad. Boy, it is not good. So, there you go. Let's see. I've still got a couple more things to show and tell here. Here is another thing I did this morning. I'll warn you ahead of time. The lighting on this sucks canal water, but it is what it is. Well, my friends, we're inside the WaterWheel House, and I'm putting on these handles. These windows leave a lot to be desired. They're mostly just for looks. They're not supposed to be perfectly airtight. I'm trying to keep them as tight as possible just to keep out the wasps and things like that. But, there's air gaps up there that the wasps can get through, so it's not a big deal. And, I may fill that in someday up there, who knows, but I doubt it. It just depends on what happens and how much of a problem it becomes. Anyway, right now that lets the heat out. That's my excuse.
regardless, I'm putting these handles on, so I have to drill holes, and they come with 2 different size screws. And of course, the Rosa luck thing, both screws are the wrong size. One is way too long and one is way too short. So fortunately, the long one can be cut off. Yeah, it just always works that way for me. I swear I don't think that ever works out. I've done handles like this a million times and they never are the right length. So let me show you how you do that if you aren't familiar. If you have one of these kinds of wire strippers that cuts off screws, that's what these holes are for, is for cutting off screws. Footage here because we've got backlight, so let me turn it sideways and that might help a little bit. But these holes are for cutting off screws. You got to find the one that your bolts screw into, and in this case it's 832. So you screw it in there, and then you just have to know how much of it you need to cut off. And I know I need to cut off about 2 threads worth past this edge. So right about there. And it's actually going to cut it off where these 2 jaws meet right here, where they scissor together. But anyway, and it takes a pretty good strength. You got to have pretty good hand strength to cut these off. But you squeeze down on this and it'll cut them right off. And then you unscrew this, and the unscrewing is what straightens the threads out. So we'll just straighten the threads out there. Now that will screw into the handle, theoretically at least. So far it has. I did it twice so far and it's worked. So we do it again. We'll cut off another one. Get ready for the next handle install. And just have to eyeball how far to go through there. And it just takes quite a bit of strength to cut them off. And these old arthritic hands can still do it, but barely. It would be nice to have a template for drilling these holes and all that, but I don't have a template made up, and it'd take too long to make the template, so it's not really very difficult to just measure. If you measure accurately and very accurately, of course. And of course it would help a lot if I had some light in here, because we don't have any light in here. That's your real problem. I can't even see the mark after I put it on there, because there, if I get it in the right light, I can. And then we basically go down 3 inches from that. That's 18, and then 1, 2, 3, so 21. And we put another mark very accurately. And then what I do is take this square and I go put it at 1 inch is where I'm going, just because it makes sense. And so now I can drill both those holes. If I can see them, I can drill them. It's very easy to drill in this plastic. That should work. So now I get my next handle out. We'll put the first screw in through here, and the hardest part of it is pushing the bolt all the way through, because these windows are hollow. Sometimes getting the screws started because they've been cut off, it's a little bit tricky, but they start reasonably easy. That one went in. Yep, that one went into, or well, I thought it did. No, I'm not so sure. Yeah, it did. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so we got both screws in. You got to be really accurate on that to get that to work, and you got to drill straight and all that, because if you angle your drill, then your holes on the other side are not going to be at the right distance. In fact, it's better to drill from the handle side, and I normally do that. It's just that for the camera taking pictures here and everything, it just didn't work out that way on this one. But regardless, it's better to drill from the side your handle is going to be going in on, because that way the hole will be closer to accurate on the actual handle. But I did a good job in this case, and it worked. So as you can probably see, there is the handle right there, and it's attached, no problem. So I've got a whole bunch more of those to do, another 1, 2, 3 more to go. So I'm not going to film the rest of that. I just thought I'd show you what I'm doing. Well, you can see I've got both handles in on this. Got to find a way to latch these windows here. Those are going to be tough, the double window. These I've got little butterfly latches for, and we can make that work without any problem. But you can see the handles on that one, and hopefully you can see the handles on this one. Hard to film this because it's dark inside here and it's light outside there. So anyway, so we got all the handles on all the windows up here. Now I'm going to see about installing those butterfly latches, at least on the 3 single windows. That'll keep those shut. And let me show you what that looks like. The butterfly latches are cast iron. Again, I can't really get it where you can see it very well, but that's cast iron. Very heavy, actually. It's heavy duty. It's not the cheap, thin, stamped metal. But then again, who knows? These could break easy, who knows? So all I got to do is put a screw in there, and then just, you just butterfly it down, and when you butterfly it up like that, well, then the window can open, That's all there is to it. So I'm not going to show installing them, but I'll show you what it looks like after we're done. Hopefully you can see that if I get the camera in the right light and how they work. And like I said, these windows are not the best. They're not intended to be the best. They're just intended to close a hole and look the part. And that's really all they're for. It's nothing more than that. This is not a heated structure or anything. And so anyway, on the double window, I just decided to put them up there, and it just works, and that's good enough. And this is the other one. So we got them all done. They're all finished. I think that concludes everything I was planning to do on this, at least for now. Of course, I do have to put these on the downstairs double windows yet, and the handles. So I'll go do that. I'm not going to show that on camera, but I'll get that done. And then, as far as I'm concerned, for the foreseeable future, this thing is finished.
And boy, howdy. Yeah, I'm going to lay off that thing for a while and start on that roof of the well house. Not to be confused with the WaterWheel House. This is the well house, where the deep well goes into the ground, and that house holds the pressure tank and the shaft that goes down like 125 feet or something to where the water is. Anyway, let's see. There's one more little thing to show you about the WaterWheel House, and then I still have one more video to show you. But here's the WaterWheel House in a different light. There you go. That's just one of the first pictures I took after I finally got the windows back in it that were painted black. And you can see to the right there the water wheel a little bit. Yeah, if you zoom up much more, though, then you lose the double shadow in the pond. You can't see the wheel real well, but I don't know. I still think that somebody mentioned that it would make a great jigsaw puzzle. I think that would make an excellent jigsaw puzzle. So it isn't a pretty picture in my opinion. Of course, I'm a little biased. But here's one more video for you to look at. Take a look at this. Driving down the dump road here a couple of weeks ago, I looked up and noticed, can you see the big old blob up there? It's another great big old hornet's nest. I think you can see it.
Yeah, I do see hornets going in and out too, so it is active. We'll get that after the first couple of frosts we have this year.
Yeah, those things will wreck your whole day. And everybody's riding their horses under that. I don't think anybody ever saw it hit. Your head is not very far from that nest when you're riding a horse through there. I would say your head's not more than 4 feet from it, maybe at the most, when you're riding a horse through there. So after I told everybody nobody wants to ride down through there now, but that thing's been there for months, I mean, everybody's been riding through there, and they haven't given them any trouble so far, but now they don't want to ride through there anymore. Well, let's see. Let's go to the comments. I think that's the last thing I had to show and tell. That's quite a bit, man. Let's see. David Thorpe was first one in, as per typical. It says, howdy, y'all. A good friend of mine is in the hospital after eating a bacon sandwich. It was mine. Yeah, I can kind of relate to that one. Let's see. Again, I'm just looking mostly for question marks. Dottie says she's praying for everybody. Thank you so much. And I hope you're doing well with your knee, Dottie. Been praying for you. Ronald Todd, good afternoon, Jerry and everyone from the West Banks of New Jersey. It says prayers for Dottie's pain and recovery. Bill Rhodes says good afternoon. And let's see. And he's praying for everybody. And let's see, moving on down. David Thorpe says, update. I said that Dove's chocolates taste better than Dove soap, but I found out that the chocolate is no good in the shower. Yeah, pretty sure you're right on that one. Let's see. Wayne Blitz there doesn't have any question marks, but I see my name. It says, good afternoon, Jerry. We just cleaned out the corn planter and put it away. Hope everyone is having a great day and keep it safe. Yeah, a corn planter. I wish I had a good little 2-row corn planter. I'd probably plant some corn here, though it wouldn't last very long with the deer and the coon, but that's mainly why I would plant it, would be for those. Anyway, Tom Armstrong says maybe a few simple flower boxes under the window. Thanks, Tom. I needed more work. That's what I need. Under the water wheel. It would be pretty, and Sue would love it too. So I hope she doesn't read this. Yeah, that would be pretty. It really would. Let's see. Dottie, congratulations to JR for winning Grand Champion class with the champ. Yep. Yeah, he's the world champion 3-year-old horse now. That's stallion. And that's a big deal. It's bigger than you think, because with a stallion, when you win championships like that, it typically, other owners want to have their horse bred to your stallion, and to raise a colt, So that should bring in some good income for JR. It's a big deal. Yeah, he did a good job. I was really pleased with it. Sorry he didn't do better in the Grand Championship. I honestly thought he would. I thought he was going to do better than that. It looked like it in the video to me. But what do I know? I was only around it my whole life. Oliver Baroque, do you plan to play more guitar pieces, Jerry? I like your mandolin chord progressions too. Well, I don't know. You mean from like Friday's play along that I did, that impromptu one that I did Friday evening? And in hindsight, I would have invited Tony and Cash to come over, but I didn't even think about doing that until I got home. So, because they were, at that at the non-existent jam Friday night too. We all showed up there and they didn't have a jam. So anyway, we all went home, and when I got home, that's when I did that impromptu play along. And I did that partly because I didn't do it on Thursday. Let's see. Don Nice says, hi, Jerry and friends. Hope everyone is doing well. Yes, Mom at the door to the WaterWheel House. Would be nice. You don't want to overdo it. Take away the look of the WaterWheel House. Bill Rhodes says, Jerry, could I hear one drop of water on the next play along? I'll try to remember to do that. If I don't write the names down here, I'll forget them. And let's see, David Tharp, after we went live, says, my whole life I never read a warning label telling me not to eat laundry detergent or put glue in my hair. Somehow I just knew. Yeah, it's back, in the 50s and 60s, we didn't need those warning labels. That's only a recent phenomenon. I don't know. It's just nuts. But you can't hardly blame the companies for doing that either, because people are pretty stupid. I mean, there's some really dummies out there. There's some major league dummies, and they get sued, and So I guess I don't know. It's crazy. You got to do what you got to do, I guess. Kim Z77C put 4 hearts there. Well, thank you. Scott Roberts says, hey, Jerry, what kind of food do they serve in the YouTube jail? Well, it's the only kind I like to eat, bread and water. It's all bland, real bland stuff. David Tharp, sometimes you get the idea that YouTube is managed by a bunch of snowflakes. That ain't no doubt. Yeah, I don't know. And if I could, again, I try to see both sides of it. I kind of get their idea and kind of understand where they're coming from. But I think you can take anything too far, and I think they've taken it a bit too far. That's just an opinion, but that's what I think. I mean, I kind of get it, especially in today's world with the knuckleheads just like going out and shooting Charlie Kirk. You don't want to promote anything that kind of makes that look like that's okay. I get that, but on the other hand, you can take anything too far. I don't care what it is. And even including, in my opinion, and this is going to offend some people, but even religion, I think you can take anything too far. You can be an extremist in anything. And once you've crossed over where that's the only thing you can see, then you're an extremist. And there's no help for you, in my opinion. It's just me. Ronald Todd, Jerry, that T9 is excellent product for using on your lathe bed and bandsaw table. It doesn't collect dust the way WD does, and other lubricants. Cool. Yeah, well, it looks like good stuff. This is made by Boeing, the airplane company. In fact, there is a little tiny airplane right there flying. It's backwards to me again. Everything's backwards. But anyway, you can see the airplane there. It is Bow Shield by Boeing. Zacharek55, yes, an apology to appreciate. I guess you're talking about the YouTube thing. Yeah, I guess. But I just don't feel so much like a criminal now. That's the whole thing, man. It just feels so good not to feel like I belong in jail. Preston Johnson, glad you got the lube spray, but even better, YouTube admitted you aren't a criminal. I knew that all the time. Thanks, Preston. I really do appreciate it. I really do. It's nice. Scott Roberts, don't you usually have your mandolin hanging behind? Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. And sometimes I have a guitar hanging there too. It's just whatever works. It's not a black and white thing, but sometimes they're there. Ronald Todd, Jerry, after watching JR's and Champ's competition and the history of the Rosa family involvement with the Foxtrotter horsemanship, I now see where you got your looks. You look like your dad. Yep. Yeah, my dad was inducted into the Hall of Fame at the at the Missouri Foxtrotter Horse Association. And JR alluded to it in his photos there, pictures where he taught David Love how to ride. David Love was totally blind. I knew David before he was blind. It was an accident. He fell on a piece of farm equipment I think on his grandfather's farm, and he banged his head right in, and it blinded him somehow. I don't know exactly how it happened. I don't remember that. David's not that much younger than me. I mean, he's maybe 10 years younger than me, something like that. So he's probably around 60 now, I guess. But anyway, it happened when I was probably 18, roughly, when he got blinded like that. I can't remember exactly. So he was probably about 8 years old, something like that. And anyway, Dad, felt sorry for him and wanted him to be involved with the horses like he had been before, and so Dad rigged up a walkie-talkie system. And back in I think that was the late 60s, roughly, is about when that happened. And back then, the technology just wasn't as good as it is now, of course. And anyway, he had it rigged up where he had earpieces in David's ears, and Dad could talk on the walkie-talkie, and it was all hidden under David's hat, and David would just steer by Dad's commands, and if you know anything about a fox-trotting horse, which I'm sure you don't, most of you, you can tell the gait by the way you're sitting in the saddle. You can tell exactly what gait they're in. And so that part is easy for a blind person or a sighted person, either one. So that wasn't an issue. You can tell what the horse is doing just by sitting in the saddle. So all he needed was guidance on the steering, and so Dad rigged that up. Now, when he won the Youth World Championship on trying to think of her name now. I know it. It's Mary Princess. That was the name. And Mary Princess was really one of Dad's first, I would say, famous horses that he had. She won a lot of world championships. And David won the World Youth Championship on that horse. And nobody, until they announced it, nobody knew he was blind. And then, of course, it's a big deal. I can remember back to it myself. It was something. It was really something. Let's see. Gino Hitch says, "Hi, Jerry and friends. Got here late, waiting for the wife at the doctor's office, watching on my phone." Well, good luck to you. Hugh O'Connor says, "Flat barbed wire was patented in 1887, with the earliest being the short barb. Best of luck trying to identify your find, as there are 315 different ones." Yeah, I knew there was gazillions. I don't know how many, but I'm aware that there's just tons of different kinds of barbed wire. And like I said, it wouldn't surprise me that in the right place out west that you would find that kind of barbed wire, or some, similar. I'm not saying the exact kind, but you'd find that similar type of barbed wire still in existence. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But I have never seen that type of barbed wire being used, and I've been around horses pretty much my whole life. And, farms down in the Ozarks and all over the place, my great-grandparents' farms and things, I've never seen that kind of barbed wire. Let's see. It scrolled on me a lot. Cup of Cool says, "I know it's not, but that one fine looks like large rocker arm for an engine." Oh, yeah, that now that you say that is what it reminds me of, a rocker arm. But I don't think that's what it is. It's way too heavy for that. I think it's something to do with the undercarriage on something big. I don't know for sure what it is. But it does look like a rocker arm, now that you say that. Bowhorn, maybe that's what I had in my back of my mind, thinking that I've seen this before. Bowhorn says, hey gang, the old knob is called a suicide knob. The flat metal looks like a piece of broken metal strapping we used to use on whistles, made whistles out of them. Yeah, the suicide knob thing, I get what you're saying. The strapping, I don't think this thing that I found is a piece of strapping at all. I think it's a strap, but I kind of think it went over maybe like a leather canteen holder or something, and it clipped into another metal clip. It definitely is something that clipped into something. You can tell that. It's the shape of the hole. And it's a real thin brass type metal. It's not magnetic. I tested for the magnet, and it's definitely not magnetic. And I found it, like I said, near one of those real old farmhouse places, and where I had already found Civil War bullets and Civil War spur and a Civil War button off of a coat. So, I mean, it could be Civil War, but I don't know that. I mean, it could be something else too. Very easy. But I'm pretty sure it's some specific purpose strap. It's not the kind of metal strapping that I think you're referring to. It's not that kind at all. Let's see. Dottie says, JR was showing pictures at Ava Horse Show of your father. You really look like your dad. Yep. Well, thank you. Well, anyway, to continue that story, after he won that World Youth Championship, it was several years later, but they inducted him to the Hall of Fame mainly because of that, I think. But he also had won many world championships in addition to, the one that David Love won. And he had a lot of different horses that actually won the championships too. Back when, 40 years ago, when my dad was more, into it more, or even 30 years ago, before he retired from it, it was much bigger. It's really fallen off comparatively over the last 25 years. And I don't know why, but it has. You could tell that like the class that he was in there, where there's only 4 or 5 horses in there, and you used to those classes were 10 to 20 horses in a class. I don't know. It just seems to have really fallen off. I guess it's kind of like the bluegrass music around here. This is really fallen off around here. There's almost nobody left. It's just like me and the band. That's pretty much it. Zacharac 55, thanks for the pretty view from the WaterWheel House. Yeah, well, you're welcome. Ronald Todd, in regards to your YouTube reply, I saw this weekend where a politician from Texas said, if you commit a crime, that doesn't make you a criminal. Well, I'm sure there's some logic there somewhere, but I can't see it. Scott Roberts, those window latches are going to scratch off your paint. Yes, I know that already. You can look at it and scratch the paint. Michael 2X, the WaterWheel House is a masterpiece. Thank you. Michael 2X, Hornets will doctor you right up. Yeah, they will. Those suckers, man, they have no conscience at all. They are one mean outfit. If you get them riled up, it's going to mess up your whole afternoon. Apparently, you can only say, look at you've gotten so big to children. Old girlfriends tend to get a bit angry and violent. I know that now. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, look at you. You've gotten so big. Yeah, that's a line you want to be careful who you use that on. Bill Mumba. If JR rides through there on Oliver, he could probably reach that nest no problem. Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that nest is not as high as it may have looked. It was only maybe 12 feet off the ground. I'm going to say about 12 feet. So when you're sitting on a horse that's approximately 5 feet tall, and then you got about another 4 feet sticking above that, or maybe 3 feet above that. I don't know. So you're not too far under it. Let's see. Michael 2X, is it too early to request Emery to sing on the Christmas show? This should give her plenty of notice. Well, I'll try to remember to ask her, but honestly, she just doesn't seem to be into it anymore. I don't know why. Let's see. Kim 77C says Emery's working on songs for Rebecca's wedding. Well, I don't doubt that at all. I wouldn't doubt that a bit. I'm sure that, I don't know this, but I have a feeling they'll be using the WaterWheel House as part of their picture taking process, because Emery does a lot of photography also. Scott Roberts, I think that rocker arm looking thing looks like a front suspension spring mount. It could be that, maybe. It does kind of remind me of that a little bit too. Ronald Todd, some of the big old hit and miss engines had pretty big rocker arms. Yeah, that's a possibility, I guess, but I don't know, maybe. I have to look at it closer and see if I think that's what it is. Preston Johnson, thanks for telling us about your dad and the blind boy. You have always been at the top of the list of good guys the world could use more. Thank you. Yeah, and the other ironic thing, and some of you may try to read something into this, and basically what I'm telling you is just the way it is. There's nothing to read into it, is that Dad would never let me go down there to Ava. He never did. You know, I was the firstborn, and he had never got an education, and he wanted me to have an education. And I mean, he wanted me to have a full education, and he wouldn't let me take off school to go down there. And, you know, I wanted to really badly, because I was the one, like when I had 2 or 3 different horses that I rode that ended up becoming world championships. Phantom 614. He never won a world championship in the gate. He won the world championship in the model, in the model class that you saw JR, try it, and his buddy had a rivalry there going on if you watch that video. But Phantom won that, and that was back when there was a lot of horses in there, 15, 20 horses, maybe more than that. I don't know how many were in the class when Phantom won, because I wasn't down there. But trust me, when I would ride Phantom around in those big crowds, and back then, like I said, the crowds were big, and there were lots of horses. Like, you'd go there, and I'm sure even when JR was down there, there was probably well over 100 horses down there. But back then, there were probably 400 horses down there. And no matter where you rode, everybody just stopped and looked at Phantom. I mean, they just stopped what they were doing and just watched him ride through, because he was the most gorgeous horse you ever saw. And, he won that hands down. And there was no doubt that I had no doubt he was going to win it when he took him down there. He was just that kind of gorgeous. It wasn't just because he was my horse that I thought he was that gorgeous. It was just black and white. He was that good looking. He was one fine looking horse. About the most perfect conformation you'd ever want to see on a horse, And Dad had, he had other horses that won the model championship too. I think his horse called Prince one time won it. I don't remember all the other ones. Mary Princess did good in it. She as a mare. Typically, it's a stallion that's going to win the model horse. I mean, typically, not 100% by any stretch, but typically it's a stallion that's going to win that. But there have been mares that have won it. Let's see. Don Nice. Jerry, Cash is coming behind you. Cash is coming behind you. What do you mean? It's like now? I don't know what you mean by that. Bill Mumbo, Jerry, I keep getting ads which makes the chat disappear. Irritating. Well, I'm sorry. But just know that you're helping my pocketbook, I guess, because the ads do. That's basically how I earn my living these days. But I have nothing to do with turning them on, turning them off, how frequent they are, any of that. I don't have anything. All I just say is it's okay to put ads on my videos. I don't necessarily say it's okay to put them on my live vlogs, but apparently they do. I don't know. Let's see. Bad Bob V65. The quote from the Texas politician is from our infamous Mrs. Crockett, who just got redistricted out of her crusty job. I can't say that she's the sharpest crayon in the box. She can't even find it. Yeah. I don't know anything about that part, but I know there's some crazy ideas floating around in some politicians' heads. I know that. Root Beer was one of his famous horses that Dad had, and he won. He may have won the model championship, but he for sure has won the gaited part for sure. I can't remember if he won model or not. Yeah, Dad had a lot of world championships, a lot of titles. Ronald Todd, V65, Miss Crockett is the box of rocks of the box of rocks. Don Nice, Cash Keep Bluegrass moving on. Oh, yeah, in this area, well, he's about the only one. That's the truth. And to be truthful, Cash is more interested in old-time country and gospel than he is in bluegrass. Not that there's a huge difference, but there is a difference. Bill Mumbo, it's only recently started. Oh, with the ads. Well, sorry, I don't know how to control that for you, but anyway, like I said, just know you're helping my bottom line. That's pretty much the only income I have other than my Social Security, which ain't much. I can tell you that. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for being here. We will see you tomorrow with something else. Hopefully it'll be something good. We'll see you then.